Hello, welcome to Intake. My name is Yveline Hulse. I'm a licensed social worker. Join us for Beneath It All, the African American community. The series is actually very important because I think to begin to have dialogue about how the pandemic has affected the African American community, the community of color, is extremely, extremely important. So if we don't have the dialogue now, when is it a good time to have this dialogue? Because with this pandemic, it's brought to the forefront a lot of stuff as a community of color that we need to discuss. And we've got to start talking about these issues, these concerns, and then you've got to start planning on how to resolve these issues. And it's definitely gonna take time. It's not something that's gonna happen overnight. The effects of this pandemic is affecting us on a monthly basis. It's gonna affect us for years to come. So if not now, then when? This is the best time to start having dialogue about why we are affected, why so many health disparities exist, why has this pandemic has brought to the forefront medical issues for the community of color, educational issues for the community of color. It has us re-examining our history, how we got to America, where the truth begins, where the truth ends. So this is the best time. And this is the series where you can have dialogue and interchange ideas with other colleagues and community people to talk about this. So this is a good time. As an African American professional, it was key for me to be a part of this because I think Intake is bringing these discussions to the forefront. And what I bring to the table is looking at how this pandemic will affect the educational system as it relates to the students of color, as it relates to other ethnic groups. So with my background in education, counseling, and mental health, I felt like I have a lot to contribute to this series as it relates to the mental health of our children. What is school going to look like when we return? And if we don't return, what is that going to look like for a lot of our students who may not have the ability or the means to have internet at home, have the proper computer equipments to continue their education, not have the right supports in place because not that they don't have a parent, a mom or dad or a grandparent at home. You know, at the end of the day, families have to return back to work. Some of our parents are essential job holding participants. They have to get back to work. Who's going to be home to oversee and make sure that our students are getting the academic needs met? So for me, it was key that I became part of this discussion to talk about education and the mental health and what that will look like when and if our children return to school. We look at history and we look at the turbulent 1960s and what that movement contributed. And for me, in my own experience, it laid the platform of what's to come. So out of this can be nothing but better for us. I think it's definitely a time to begin to dialogue, articulate our needs, and almost demand what is rightfully ours in terms of education, in terms of medical, in terms of employment, in terms of economic agility, the ability to begin to navigate some of these social services that oftentimes treat us differently or less than because we are people of color. We notice that in the medical field. We notice that in the educational field. We notice that in the job market. So this here, again, dialogue is the best thing that can come out of this. And from there, you begin to organize, you come with a platform, and you start demanding what is yours. And the hard thing is that this is America. Having to accept this and having to look at this, it's a lot easier for a lot of people to say this is not true, this does not exist. But the reality is, it's happening. This is America at its best. And I always go back to, I say this often, America has never been apologetic to slavery. they've never acknowledged, yes, this happened, and this is how we are going to move forward as America. America has never ever owned up, has never ever been apologetic to the violent act of slavery and what it's done for generations. And for me, that's a start. That is a start. When you can admit that you're wrong and apologize, it will ease the tension and it'll open doors for dialogue. And that's not something that our previous president could have done as the first African-American president. That wasn't his place to be apologetic for slavery. But that is a start for us. And there's more to come. There's more to come out of this Black Lives Matter movement. It's a lot deeper than, when the world turns on the TV, they see statues coming down. There's more to it. What is the symbolism of some of these statues that are being destroyed? So from this here, dialogue would be key. What I would hope America or any individual watching the series is to understand that we are a people. We bleed, we're sad, we're happy, we're angry. We're a generation of individuals, human beings that have been oppressed for a very, very long time. So I would hope that they would get out of this intake series a better understanding of what it is to be African American, what it is to be a person of color in America. All of the isms are coming out, and it's on the national front. The whole world is watching this and saying, what is going on to this nation that we've come accustomed to saying it's great because it's America. We're the best because it's America. We are seeing all this unfold on national TV, and it's unfortunate. It's starting from the top and it goes down. But if you get anything out of this series, is coming out having a clear understanding of the feeling of what it's like to be a person of color in America every day. Every day. These struggles don't happen as an isolated incident. It's every day. We have to remind ourselves that we are people of color. We can only do this. We can only accept this. Or we don't want to say too much because we don't want to upset the few. You come out, I'm hoping that you come out with an understanding of what it is to be a person of color in America and how we've been discriminated against: education, employment, banking industry, loans, a lot of stuff. And especially education, especially with the education system in America. I'd like to end by saying, thank you very much for Intake and the staff for opening up the dialogue and the platform for a lot of us to come together in these series to begin to talk about the impact of COVID on communities of color. And in hopes that as we begin to navigate this pandemic, I'm hoping that people will have a better understanding of who we are as human beings, a better understanding of self, and understanding of the effects that this pandemic has had on individuals, especially people of color, our own community, how that's been affected by this pandemic. And I'm hoping that the series will allow dialogue in your own homes, in your place of work, with your family, about, okay, how does one pandemic peel off the layers of the problems that exist in America? So I'm hoping that this series will allow for dialogue to continue.
If you're a professional who would like to be on the show, or an individual who has struggled with mental health and would like to be a guest, email us at info@intake.tv.
Follow us on all of our social media platforms.
Intake Talk Show, making mental health a priority by changing the way the world views it. To learn more about Intake or one of our guests, visit our website at intake.tv.